stress
meeting
now.
because I didn't have enough brain cells to do this for an extra 30 minutes, so we're gonna cut right to the chase. So if you've been around Sandals for any amount of time, you know that we like to switch it up. We like to just do that again, Tim. That's right. So so there's been another kind of organizational shift. Everyone's gonna find out about this tomorrow, I think, but because it directly impacts our team, I'm gonna meet with you guys today and let you know. So for a while, I'm sorry, we had to get this straightened out because I cannot remember all the deets.
It's the key. Is it
Right.
a compass?
I was like, Tyler, we're gonna go. Give me a little
I need you
refresher.
to give me a cheat sheet.
So they were looking for a senior creative director back in the fall, and they pulled worship out, and they kept everything else together. They've been looking for like a senior creative director to kind of take all of those things back over. In the last few months, though, after some big conversations about how things work and who's really connected to each other, Dan kind of unveiled a new kind of organizational strategy, which makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to kind of just walk you through what this is. So my title is changing to Weekend Programming Director.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Tim. We didn't practice this beforehand.
Yeah, I mean that's.
So it's going to be worship, production, hosting, and weekend at a glance.
Crazy. In the morning.
So we're all coming back together as one big happy family. Thank you, Tim. Tim is doing exactly.
I'm sorry, I just feel like this is. Oh, is there more?
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate your.
This is great.
Yes. So we'll kind of be everything that happens on the platform on the weekend is coming under one banner again. So Isaiah will still be the production director, just underneath this umbrella. So he's going to actually meet with network production after this, and then I'm going to meet with them as well to talk about a couple of things. The next piece of this puzzle is the next kind of section is digital media. This is going to be Zach, and this is going to be SCTV, the debrief, Send the Web, I don't know, and then Marcom. So this will be Nick, Mike, Terrell. I believe Stephanie will report to Mike, and so she's going to be on this team. And then this last piece is creative director. That's who we're looking for now, not senior creative director. This is going to be right on space. Oh, that sounds.
It's over the break. So
What do we do now?
Well, you can slide. There you go. And then, yep.
No. That's very sad.
No.
Yeah, I know. That's so weird. I wonder if I stay. Okay, I'll write.
Stay to the right of the line, maybe?
Design. Video. Can someone turn the line down? Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude.
You are.
And development. So this will be Whitney and Adam Sims and John O reporting to whoever this creative director is. I guess environments is with facilities. I'm not really sure. I'm going to tell you guys what I know. So, so this is effective as of already. And so just so you guys know, I think it actually started this weekend. I've already had a great initial conversation with Isaiah. Remember our conversation last week? That's like, I just wanted to throw this out there that it feels like worship and production should be together. It's like, it's an astute observation. But I'm excited about kind of bringing us back together. And so I want to share with you guys a couple reasons why I think this is a win for us, but then I also want to share some things that I want you guys to know, and then I'm going to share these very same things with network production, and then we're going to have a campus network worship production big gathering when I think Dan Zimbardi or Brian Chalette or a combination will be kind of talking this through with everyone and kind of the why behind it. But here's why I'm most excited about this, because cohesion to the weekend just makes total sense. And so I'm gonna get to speak into the transitions and the speaking transitions and what we say and why we say it and what we don't say, and as much as so-and-so may want you to give your testimony, here's why we're not doing that. And just kind of bring clarity and alignment so there doesn't feel that you guys don't feel like it. So it's all going to kind of come together. But there's also going to be some team wins for worship and production, especially. And this is going to be, I think this is going to be huge for really supporting and aligning the campus at the campus level, the worship and production relationship. That currently functions a lot different than we do, and so there's going to be some changes to that. We don't have a network worship, campus worship, and a separation. We're all one big team, even if you have just a campus role or you have a dual role, and that's how I think it functions best. So I'm really looking to strengthen that campus worship connection at the campus level. That's like one of the first priorities. So this is how the whole thing breaks down. Just so you guys kind of have an idea. And again, I think this is going to go out to everybody tomorrow or this afternoon, so just keep it tucked away in your little bitty pocket. But direct your attention, if you would now, to this screen over here, because this is going to be the model and the vision for worship and production, okay? We're going to dive into this more in our family meeting next week. But this is kind of the vision and the model for how I see our teams working together. So just because you guys have lots of experience working with production, and we can all sit here and talk about what's gone well, what doesn't go well, why there's friction, when there's tension, personality differences, all those kinds of things. But as I was really thinking and praying about boiling it down to what will make that relationship work really well, I think it boils down to this. Our two huge core values across our team of communication and collaboration. Again, I'm gonna get ready to go through this with Isaiah, Kelly, Luke, who I brought this. I can't remember right now. My brain is tired. But here's how this works. Our job, our number one priority when it comes to our production friends is that we serve them by over communicating and always inviting them to collaborate. So we serve them by giving them as much information as we can, as quickly as we can, as effectively as we can, and we continue to reach out to them, connect with them. We are proactive with that. Like, they're not hunting us down to find out who's leading the song. They're not having to tap us and go, hey, what? We're serving them by giving them everything that they need so that they can support what we're doing on the platform. And as we serve them, meaning serving them sets them up for success, we give them everything that they need to support us, to set us up for success on the platform. And this is how it works. It falls apart without these two things in the middle. I get giddy when I get an email that says, hey, Richie and I were working on this and this is what we came up with. I'm like, yes, it's communication, it's collaboration, it's putting heads together. Worship and production shouldn't be siloed off from each other. You shouldn't feel unsupported by your production lead at your campus. You shouldn't feel like you're a bother to them. You shouldn't feel like you're like, well, we kind of need our packs, like, we kind of need those to work. Like, that shouldn't feel like like, my example is the Southwest crew from Dulles to Denver were not nice. And at one point I was like parched. I was like, could I get a cup of water? And he was enjoying himself some ribs. And he was like, a cup of water? I'm like, yeah, B, a cup of water. Let me tell, like, I was like, yeah, a cup of water. Like, because your job is to serve the people that are like, you know what I'm saying? So we're gonna spend a lot of time over these next several weeks really working on this and talking about this. As a team, there's going to be a kind of a gathering where the campus production worship leads are going to have a little get to know you Q&A with each other. Like, how do you experience me? What do I what are my feelings going into a weekend serving with you? We're gonna get really real and get that out in the open, because we want that relationship to be rock solid, and everyone to be on the same page as far as what the expectations are for the production lead in terms of how they support, and for the worship lead in terms of how they serve. Okay, so as I was thinking about this, our weekend win is going to be the same for production as it is for worship, going back to preparation and presence. I took out purpose because I was like, that's not, and I landed on the third. I was like, this is what I want the third weekend win to be. So it is people.
Sorry, it was backwards.
There you go.
Oh.
We talked about the value of preparation. Preparation enables confidence, heads up versus heads down. The production team should be heads down, just like your worship team should be heads down. There should be video games with console. There should be snacky snack. There shouldn't be. It should be heads up. We're serving the
Very
worship team
specific.
while they're leading. We know what's happening on the platform. The value of presence. As you're leading the room and engaging, the production team should be engaging with what's happening with you. They're completely engaged with what you're doing and enabling you to do what you're supposed to do. Leading people versus leading songs. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what that means as far as slides and the lyric ministry and all of those things. But here's the third one, and this is what I think is really important. This is important for your teams, this is important for their teams, is the value of people. I value people by interacting with them. Okay? Someone on your team feels valuable to you when over the weekend of serving with you, you interacted with them. You didn't get on your phone and sit in the corner. You didn't barely speak. It's not a win for the weekend if you go through an entire weekend serving and you and your production lead barely you have a conversation in passing. That's not a win. You didn't interact. You're responsible for executing the service, essentially. You and that person. I value people by caring about how they experience me. This is gonna be a major shift for production, which I'm aware of, and I'm going to hit this really hard because it's really important. It really matters. It matters how we build teams. It matters how we recruit teams. It matters how volunteers want to be on our team, because when people, unfortunately, there's people that don't want to serve on teams across our church because of how they've experienced the team leader. So that's just the reality. So it should matter to us how people are experiencing us when they serve on our teams, because a lot of times we're the deciding factor whether they continue serving or whether they decide they'd rather do something else. So what's not acceptable is, well, we just can't find anybody to serve. Well, why? That's a problem we have to solve. What we do depends on that. We're not going to have 3 paid production people at a campus. We're not going to have 3 paid worship people at a campus. We're going to have the production lead, the worship leader, and we're going to have a team of volunteers. So if we can't recruit volunteers, what's the problem? Why isn't that working? And let's dig in to see if it has anything to do about how people are experiencing you. And so we're going to kick this off by having just real conversations about you and kindness. Here's how I experience you with your production lead. And your production lead giving you the same feedback. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of hours, and we can't do this within constraints, and all of those logistics we'll get to. But these are things that we can start right now. We can just start. Oh, okay. I need to be less pitchy. Okay, I can work on that starting right now. I can listen better. I can.
That too. Always trying to be less pitchy.
Well, you shouldn't be pitchy. They shouldn't be. It should.
It works together.
It works together. But these are things that we don't need training on. We don't need to have we don't need soul care. We don't need a sermon. We just need to start caring about this right away. Tuck that away.
Tell everybody.
No. So like I said, I'm gonna go over this with them. What time is it? 1? Almost.
12:48.
Yeah, so we have a little time for Q&A if you have questions, but so we're going to go over this very same thing, and then probably within the next week or so, we will have a joint meeting with with production to kind of talk through all this together as one big happy family. Happy. Reap it up. You have a question?
No.
Oh, okay. You missed your clapping cue at that
Sorry.
point.
Thank you, Melody. Yeah.
Alright, any questions, concerns, clarity?
This is good stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Ton
Yeah.
of sense.
Clearly I do not know anything about production. That's like not a secret. That came out in the first meeting about it. But that's not the, like I'm not in there to go, well I think we should have this subwoofer instead of like, that's not my role. My role is essentially just to bring our teams together and lead there. So that there's cohesion and alignment and there's real symmetry, and their win is our win and our win is their win, and everyone sees like the production lead needs to carry the weight of if the worship lead didn't feel like they succeeded this weekend, I have to own part of that, and vice versa, and that's why it comes down to the serve support thing. So I think that kind of getting off to that start, and really kind of realigning some of the way the network campus production relationship works right now, I think will be kind of huge into seeing this like take off and actually be executed well. So, any
Question.
yes,
Um,
yes,
the-
Krista.
Yes.
Yes.
Do the production leads, do they do like a weekend eval as well, or is that, I don't know, I just thought.
Yes,
Yes.
Isaiah essentially
Uh,
took mine and uses
Like
it with
develop
them.
it, okay.
Mhm.
Cause that might
So
be
we'll
kinda cool
we'll
to,
bring
like,
that under
bring-
one. Yes,
Yeah.
that will.
Hmm.
They will marry each other in perfect union. They will say their
The two shall
vows.
be
Two
one.
will be one.
The two will be one. Yes.
What's gonna be your role in being over hosting and Weekend at a Glance?
Yes. So I have a person in mind that I want to hand off Weekend at a Glance to, but haven't talked to them yet, so can't say that yet. Hosting, probably in the whole thing, hosting has to be the most challenged, I think. But there'll be coaching and training of the campus pastors at a little bit more of a intentional, strategic level. I'm gonna start from the network level, saying here's what the role of the host is for the service, and here's what the role of the worship leader is, and what it's not. I think one of the things I want to, in an honoring way, and John and I have already talked about this a little bit, is helping the campus pastors find their voice and use it without so many words in some instances. We keep running into, even though we've elongated the service to 70 minutes, we keep having this and then more words is not the answer to the problem that I think people are bringing up. I think the answer is clarity of roles and looking for ways outside of that Sunday morning to have influence and presence and have a voice and those kind of things. And I don't have all those answers right now. I just think that for growth, for a growth mindset, we have to have a scalable model for what the service looks like, and all of those roles being defined. So, like one of the first things I did was I was like, I don't want worship leaders being the service hosts. I don't want them carrying I want them to focus on leading worship. I want them to focus on their teams and the songs and their transitions. And so kind of like moving those two apart rather than, oh yeah, Eddie's great, he can talk, let's have separate roles, but now just bringing definition to those and working with John to make sure there's real alignment in terms of what we're communicating and making sure they all get it and they're on board, but definitely some training for hosting.
Yeah, it makes sense that hosting would go under weekend programming all together.
Yeah,
This still might be in the process of being fleshed out.
it probably is.
Yeah. But let's just use an example for like music under the welcome. So if we have a campus pastor who's wanting to sidebar, kind of pull that. It's been communicated that we're doing that across the campuses. Where do those things kind of land? Who has the final call on that? Are those things still being like autonomy at campus level kind of thing?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was
but
saying as well.
I want the campus I want to get buy-in from the campus pastors as to the why, and then I want the worship team to execute it really well.
Right.
So I think when they understand the why and they execute it really well, we'll have less of that felt weird or awkward. The point of that moment in service is a transition. It's not a standalone element. As soon as we ring out and clap and the music goes away, it's now this, and now it's your turn to talk. And that's not what it is.
Right.
It's a welcome, it's a here's who I am, it's a here's what's coming next, and it has to move. And that's where we're getting a lot of bottleneck in the service times. That is going to sometimes 3.5, 4 minutes long. Even longer.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes at Woodcrest. It gets lengthy. And then Matt comes and talks for 35 or 40 minutes. So that's not a win. So that's back to establishing presence and voice without so many words. And so I really want to cast vision for the fact that the music there doesn't need to slow down to some sort of ballad. It can be, in fact, if you watch a Hillsong or an Elevation service online, the music underneath that welcome continues to kind of be upbeat and energetic, and it has like kind of it doesn't go down to this just as I am kind of a thing, but they have, it's back to the vision of what is this moment supposed to be, and making sure they get that and they understand that, and making sure that the worship team is like, hey, we don't need to just take it down to a strum. In most instances, I would really prefer paths that kind of are moving a little bit faster. And really depending on the song before, but we can kind of, what I'm hoping is to kind of create with Matt Ritchie like a template for the sounds and the tempo and the feel for that moment based on coming out of the worship, so that we're just going, it's going to sound like this is what we want it to sound like, this is what we want it to be like, and we just give clarity to the teams, and then we explain to the campus, this is the why behind that. And does it have to be every single time, like when we're doing something different, then we can we're going to talk about a launch. Well, then maybe we do stop playing and it's more of a standalone. But then we're factoring that into the minutes of the service.
Right.
So right now we just kind of keep having that as a minute, and it's very rarely a minute anywhere. And then we're like, this went long. I was like, well, worship was 20. Matt was 39. Like, where is it getting long? And it's typically in those moments. So that's a long answer
I have
to
a
a short
question.
question.
For the campus worship leaders, do you guys have countdown clocks on your confidence bundles? Okay. We don't.
I
So
knew
that might be
exactly where this
helpful.
was going with Pablo. I'm going to take a poll. Yes, so we don't.
So that might be helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Adam is a great communicator, but he can go on.
Right.
Um,
We have countdown clock. That doesn't always mean that
it's
it
disregarded.
is used.
So let me just give you an example of what I'm talking
He stuck
about.
with it really well.
There's a desire from the campus pastors for there to be like some more like open sharing, like from the worship leaders, like during worship. That sounds like a good idea when you say it, right? But the working out of that, we have to go back to the why. Like why and the what. Like what do you want that to be? We took out real focus transitions, and I don't miss them. I don't miss saying them. I don't miss hearing them. Like I just because we don't this is the most important piece for everyone to realize. The most important communication that happens in our services is from our pastor. We don't have to bring this nugget that we found in the Word. Like, God bless your heart with that nugget. Bless your teams on Thursday night with that nugget. Bless your teams in the green room with that nugget. We do not have any pressure or expectation on us to go, here's what we found from God's Word this week. Is there anything wrong with that? No. But that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to lead people through an experience. And there's scripture moments in there for sure, but we don't need a 3-minute take out my Bible, turn to Matthew, and let me tell you, like, that's not what we need to do. What we need to do is we need to bring people through a fluid experience where their engagement is high, where they're leaning in. Matt and Danny and Pablo talked with us yesterday in home base. We take people from a posture of this to leaning in, to bring them to the place where they're ready to receive the word from our pastor, from whoever is teaching. And then on the other side of that, now we're inviting them to respond. how do you respond now to the teaching of the word? How do you respond to that challenge? By giving, by listening, by serving, by forgiving, by confessing, by fill in the blanks. What I want us to start really marking, and if you notice at Hillsong when we were there, other than Joel's like call to the gospel and Jay Dougie's thing about compassion, and there was a little snippet from Taya. Other than that, we were there for 2 hours. There were no massive wordy transitions in between songs. They do most of their worship leading inside of the song, and that is what I want us to do. Utilize bridges and instrumentals, bringing it down, saying our verse there, praying over the people there, that kind of a thing that doesn't become another standalone element. We want it to be a really fluid, moving, flowing service that's going, we start here, and we go here, we bring people here, Matt comes in here. We start here, and people are energized or clapping, and then we're reflective, and we anthem, and then we give people to Matt here. That's really what our job is. And so that just has to be communicated and understood and, wrestled through a little bit. But having said that, I think that there's other things that we can do in other venues and gatherings that we can take advantage of at the campus level to give voice from the campus worship leader, from the campus pastor. We don't need to be cramming all those talking moments into this service. So that's kind of my angle on that.